Hello there, guys, and welcome back to my channel for yet another player ratings live stream. Following Chelsea having another very, very disappointing and aggravating and annoying game in which we got another 2 points on another early kickoff. I blame CFCPys, by the way, because he reminded me yesterday that we always struggle on early kickoffs. And what happened? We struggled at an early kickoff. So, in my opinion, this is all your fault now. But yeah, we drew 0-0 against Leeds, which is not very brilliant. But there was a couple of very good performances. Sadly, they were only defensively, which was the frustrating bit. We had the chances to win the game, but overall, it wasn't a brilliant performance. Personally, I believe Thomas Tuchel got it wrong today, both in the starting 11 and the substitutions. Not necessarily that the substitutions, I wouldn't have made them, but in hindsight, they went wrong. And the manager's job is for that not to happen. I can use hindsight. He shouldn't, if that makes sense. That doesn't mean Thomas Tuchel is now a dreadful manager. Not by any means. But hey, sometimes you just get it wrong. And hey, if we get another 0-0 against Atletico, I'll be very pleased. But today, I'm not. So, that is what we're going to discuss today. Of course, I am not by myself, as you can clearly see on screen. I am joined by the man himself, the guy that recently made his TV debut, Mr. James. Bro, how are you?
I'm good, man. Thank you for that lovely introduction. Yeah, I'm good. Excited to be here. Also, if you're here right now, make sure you like and subscribe because we're on the road to 10K and there's no point sat here watching a video if you're not subscribed. And there's even, definitely don't watch if you haven't liked the video already. So please make sure you do both of those. But yeah, I'm good, man.
Exactly. I couldn't agree more. And of course, we're also joined by, shall we say, my partner in crime for the player ratings live streams, even though you also turned up for a preview yesterday. Maybe we shouldn't do that anymore. Considering how today went. No, I'm joking. Pies, bro, how you doing? Hope you're okay regardless of a difficult result, shall we say.
I think you said it right. I think we jinxed it yesterday by doing that preview and me telling you about early kickoffs. Because I said, I was like, I have a dodgy feeling. Even though I said 2-0, I was like, but there's an early kickoff, so we have to, think about that a little bit, which has turned out to be kind of true. Because, personally, I thought we played okay, but I just don't think we played as well as we could have. And I'm just not sure that would have happened on a later kickoff. But I'm not blaming it on the kickoff time. The players should be up for it and should have won today, basically. So, just very annoying, to be honest. It could be less annoying if Man U beat West Ham, but if West Ham win that and then overtake us, and I think they've got games in hand and Everton have got games in hand, next few weeks are going to be very interesting. But luckily for us, even though we've drawn today, the next few games are kind of winnable and I would expect us to win. So hopefully we bounce back from this.
For sure. We absolutely have to bounce back from this. Do excuse me, guys, before I get the lineup, rolling at the bottom of the screen. Everyone watching right now, everyone in the chat, I will get to you guys in just a second because my computer is taking forever to do anything today. So I just have to sort a couple of admin stuff while everything's happening. But yeah, I fully agree. We didn't play like dreadfully awful. The average performances was definitely lower than, recently. But it wasn't like shocking. Obviously, maybe there was 1 or 2 in there that really weren't good, but it wasn't absolutely dreadful. The ball didn't fall to us in the right moments. Obviously, Leeds could have scored one of the most ridiculous own goals you will have ever seen. That didn't quite happen. The ball didn't quite fall to us in the right moments. Maybe the Havertz chance early in the second half, I think the ball took a bubble for him to probably shoot it straight at the keeper rather than probably at the far post. Like, it wasn't quite happening for us. At least we kept the clean sheet. We have to keep the positives going. Don't concede goals. That's great. And, Eduardo Mendy showed again today what a brilliant goalkeeper is and why people talking about Donnarumma is very unnecessary unless Donnarumma wants like 10K a week. But hey, that is that. Let's get into the game. Before we get into individual player ratings, why don't you, because Pies kind of did already, why don't you give us a little roundup of what you thought of the game as well, Jay?
Yeah, it was frustrating. It was okay. You're definitely right. Defensively, we were fine. It's nice to see Christensen be confident. Rudiger was outstanding. Aspi, the least outstanding of the three. Some of his passing was a bit sloppy. Some of his positional play was a bit weak. But yeah, overall not so bad. Midfield were fine. I thought Kante was good. Pulisic decent at right wing back. I would have had him as a sub though, not starting. And the attack is just struggling to click. But it seems as though Leeds were willing to press but not commit as many men forward as consistently as they've done. Because obviously this is a vital game for us to win. But Leeds have been playing nice football, but they're still not really climbing the table as much as you would expect from how much they're talked about. So the game was a stalemate, but it really could have been 3-0 either way, 3-3 4-3. Like it was a strange game, and 0-0 just doesn't seem like the correct outcome either way. And I don't really know what else there is to say apart from that, mate.
Yeah, I mean, that's it really, because like I said this yesterday in my preview, against Leeds, you either beat them 5-0 or you lose 5-0. And of course, what do? Get a bloody 0-0 draw. That's the first draw since October when they drew 1-1 against Man City. So, it kind of pisses me off in itself, in all honesty. Like, frustrating one. It's definitely a frustrating one. I'll be totally there in just a second. But I guess we just start from the back as usual, innit? Because, before we get on to more negative things, we start with more positive things. And Edouard Mendy today was certainly a positive, because that save in the first half to tip that ball onto the bar, amazing save. That save in the second half after the Rodrigo shot that was deflected by Christensen, amazing save. And also did well to catch a couple of crosses and just had a good game overall. Even his passing was very good. Like I said, like you guys said, Leeds pressed us. He dealt with that perfectly well, in my opinion. So he did good. He did very, very good. What are we saying about that one, Pys?
Yeah, Mendy was fantastic. I mean, without those two very, very good saves, we lose the game today, I think. And also probably the Rudiger header that he cleared from the cross. I think Bamford was getting to that. And that was definitely, I mean, Mendy's not going to stop that because it was going so quick and he just had to nod it in. So I thought Rudiger did really well there. But Mendy was just fantastic. Very, very good. Probably the highest rating for me, to be honest. I don't think that can be argued. I mean, it'd be interesting to see what you guys give him, because I'd probably give him like maybe a 9 or even higher, because as I said, without those saves, we probably lose the game. And it's, everyone talks about game of fine margins. Well, there's your fine margins. You can talk about the chances we did have, but at the end of the day, if Mendy doesn't make those two vital saves, we probably don't come out with the win or with the draw. So yeah, I'm probably going to give him, I'll say a 9, depending on what you guys say. But to be honest, I could just easily give him a 10 or an 11, because I just thought he saved us today. That gave us the game, honestly.
Yeah, it's one of those ones which we touched on where we're with Jester in the past already, where it's like he probably individually deserve maybe even a 10, but it just feels off when you don't get a good result to give a 10. So I would probably agree with a 9, if that makes sense. What about you, Jay?
Yeah, I was going to say a 9. I thought I was going to be the highest shooter here, because obviously the result is a bit underwhelming. But yeah, without him, PS is right, bang on. The fine margins is not just good strikers that get you points; it's keepers that get you points as well. And that second save, sort of low down with his left hand, I thought was just outstanding. And actually all of his saves today, the caliber of the save, and how difficult it is to do that. I honestly thought it was outstanding, and for me, the man of the match. So I'd give him a 9 as well.
There you go. And I guess next, let's start from probably we get progressively better with the centre backs as we talk through them. Can we just clear up, by the way? People in the Blues Fans TV review gave me a right old go, saying we played a back 4 today. No, we didn't. We defended in the 4, fair enough, but that's what we always do when either Hudson-Odoi or now Pulisic play wing back. We didn't play in a back 4 today, even though the commentators apparently also in England, plus here, all tried to tell us that it was a back 4. It just wasn't. It absolutely wasn't. That was not a back 4. So 3 centre backs: Aspi, Christensen, Rudiger. Let's start with Azpilicueta. What would we give him? Let me go with you first this time, Jay. What were you saying about him?
To be honest, I'd probably give him a 6.5, because naturally he almost always gets a 7 out of 10 for me, because he's that type of player and he's very consistent. But I thought some of his passing was a bit sloppy, some of his positional play is a bit sloppy, poor communication sometimes. It's just small things here and there, and I'm not gonna berate him. I'm not gonna give him a load of stick. I just think for someone who's that experienced and that professional, there are a few sloppy mistakes there that I think you could have done a bit better. But overall, I think he was fine, and another clean sheet. And it's Aspi at the end of the day. So I'd say 6.5 if that's sort of allowed. Half points are allowed, then yeah. But I also just sent you on WhatsApp the thing from the first half, the graphic from the first half where they showed the average position of the team. I'm not sure if you've seen it already, but yeah, it was definitely it was definitely a back 3. But yeah, 6.5 for Aspi for me.
That is fair. It's a tough one because I still think we defended all right as a whole. But yeah, I'm not sure.
But also, Bamford came off injured though. Like if Bamford didn't come off, it might have been a different story. But that's just hypothetical. So yeah, you're right.
Yeah, exactly. It is. I don't. That's tough to call. Pice, what will you say about Aspie? Because I'm not sure yet, if that makes sense.
Yeah, kind of like what Jay said. I mean, just kind of average. Like, I mean, some of his passing was a bit off. I just didn't really think much of him, to be honest. Not as standout he has been in other performances. I don't really have many thoughts, to be honest. Just kind of meh, I guess you could say, like just meh. Probably 6.5 again. I'd say I'm happy to agree with Jay there. I mean, maybe a 6.5, depending on what other ratings. Maybe we can change them eventually. I'm not sure.
So, what were you saying, 6 or 6.5? Yeah,
I'll go with 6.5 for now. But yeah, I just think he was just average today. Like, just not stand out at all. And some of his passing, as Jay said, I agree, was a bit off.
Yeah, I think I'd agree on the 6.5. I think 6.5 is probably fair overall. So let's go with that. It's a tough one to call for me because I definitely agree with Jay in terms of the passing. He was probably the biggest like kind of problem we had in terms of playing out from the back, which we had at times. Christensen had one or two, which obviously in the end, one of Christensen's mistakes led to Mendy having to make that unbelievable save in the first half. But yeah, I think 6.5 is probably fair. So let's go with that. And next we go to Andreas Christensen, who again was very good, bar one mistake that obviously led to a huge chance for Leeds, but Mendy did well to save it. So what are we saying for that one? Let me go first with this. Maybe I'll go 7.5. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's exactly what I would have said 7.5 because of Rudiger.
7.5, 8 is what probably I would have pushed because he did have a good performance. One mistake, maybe 8 is a bit too harsh when you make a mistake that your goalkeeper really has to dig you out of. So I think I'd go for 7.5. What about you, Pice?
I'm happy with that, to be fair. I mean, I just want to mention, obviously, that offside goal that was eventually given. Christensen actually took a gamble and stepped forward, which then played him offside. So I think he did really well there.
That was brilliant defending.
Yeah, it was brilliant defending. Like good awareness and good intelligence to think of that in a quick moment on a quick counter. So yeah, I would probably give him a 7.5. I think that's fair. Maybe higher if we won, but we drew, so I can't give people too high. Except, as I said before, Mendy, because he did make 2 brilliant saves. So yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. Let's go with that 7.5. And next we go to Antonio Rudiger. And for me, it's between Mendy, Rudiger, and maybe on the edge Kante. In terms of man of the match, you could probably throw Jorginho in there as well, because to be honest, I don't think there was much between him and Kante. Just Kante was more, I don't know, you saw more of him because he had more.
He's active.
Yeah, exactly. But to get to Antonio Rudiger, I don't think he could have done any better today, quite frankly. That the Pies, I think Pies was mentioned it already. That heading clearance just ahead of Bamford, brilliant. Like that is one hell of a clearance or of a defensive move. Honestly, amazing. And he had a couple of other moments as well where he did really good. In the second half, he tried to push the team with runs forward, trying to get involved, even though sometimes a bit too much and was kind of in the end standing a bit in the way. But I liked the attempt. I liked the effort. And I think he did really good. He was probably one of our better passers today in terms of opening passes, like Jay touched on already. I think that was also to some extent to do that. Now teams have learned, okay, don't give Christensen too much time to pass. So now that's why today Rudiger had a little bit more of it, while Aspie and Christensen had less of it, because they struggle to block all three. So they kind of have to leave one, and Rudiger probably had a tiny bit more time than the other ones. But still, I think, like I said, maybe we should have to make that decision on terms of man of the match already. Because I can't really decide between those three, I would probably push him for a 9 as well. I know Justice is talking about 7.5 here, but I think as a centre-back, he couldn't have done more other than maybe do better in the box in terms of for attacking set pieces. But I don't think the deliveries were very good today for any of the people in the box to do much with any of them, quite frankly. So I would maybe push for a 9. I know that seems a bit high. Maybe we'll have to take it down again, but maybe we'll just agree that Mendy was man of the match, and then we can't give Rudiger an 8.5 or something. But let me go with you, Pice. What would you think?
I would give him an 8.5 just because I think personally Mendy was man of the match, made 2 world-class saves, as I've said multiple times. So for me, he gets man of the match. A lot of Chelsea fans are voting the same thing as well. on Chelsea's Twitter account. So yeah, I think it's unanimous that Mendy is man of the match today. But Rudiger was very good as well, as you said, pushing the team forward. Really liked that. Took a long shot, which wasn't actually too bad. And obviously that clearance from the cross, which was really, really good defending, brave defending, putting his body on the line. That's what you want from a Chelsea centre-back. So, yeah, I was impressed with Rudiger. I've been pretty impressed with him since Tuchel's come in, by that obviously one own goal. But, yeah, he's just been really consistent. I see someone saying 7.5, but for me, I'm pushing him up to an 8.5 just because of that vital clearance and of that header. Because Bamford is scoring that with a good cross and, he can't miss from there. So I would say 8.5 for me.
Yeah, I would agree. I would probably agree. Jay, what about you?
Yeah, I agree as well. 8.5 is totally cool with me. I see what Jess is saying, but I think Rudiger, he stopped the performance not being a draw and being a loss. So that's the role of a defender, is to prevent losses rather than to win the games in terms of scoring goals. And actually, Rudiger did take it upon him to push up and try and contribute and try and test the keeper from range. And the shot wasn't bad. And again, I'm always well, I have been critical of him. I have been critical of Jorginho. But Rudiger's been outstanding recently, and I think 8.5 is fair. I just think for me it would be Mendy, Rudiger, and Kante in that order for man of the match. So that's why I'm not going to give him a 9. But I think 8.5 is definitely justified.
Yeah, there we go. Let's definitely go with that. I see what you're saying, Jester, and obviously we've spoken about this before. And I see where you're coming from. Like, you can't give high ratings when you get a win. But to be fair, you don't agree with our high ratings when we win either. So maybe you're just a little bit too negative. Because like Jay said, what's a centre-back's job? Make sure you don't concede. He did that perfectly today. And even got involved in the attacking. Yes, like I said, maybe could have done a little bit more in terms of the opposition's box when we had set pieces. But again, I don't think the deliveries were quite there that we could criticize any of the guys for not getting on the end of them better. So for me, it's not up to Rudiger to win the game. That's not what the centre-back's job is. And, it would be harsh to, discredit a defender's, a goalkeeper's performance just because the attackers can't score, in my opinion. So I would agree with that 8.5. And I guess next we go to Ben Chilwell, where we're probably going to have the biggest disagreements. I do agree with what Pys is going to say in just a second. And I think Jay, to some extent, will agree as well, that he was poor. I just don't think it was as poor as a lot of people are making it out. I don't think it was that dreadful. I think there was good moments between so he struggled a lot in the first 10-15 and struggled a lot for the last 10-15. But in between that, I thought there was good moments. There was good interceptions. There was good runs. There was good duels. There was good tackles. There was good passes, but not enough. Like, he didn't find the dangerous pass when he had to. He either didn't try to cross, or when he did, they were poor. And he was offside a couple too many times as well. He had a chance through on goal where, for God knows what reason, tried to go for an outside of the boot shot inside the box when he was already close to the near post. So I'm like, what are you doing? Don't really understand that, what he tried to attempt there. So I don't think he was absolutely shockingly bad, but I think he was poor. And because I know, Pys, you're going to disagree with me here, hit me. What were your thoughts?
I just thought he was terrible today. Like, I didn't rate him at all. Like, defensively and going forward.
Let me just interrupt quickly. I'm not going to find a way. There's a bloody highway of hate for Timo Werner justified. Like, stop this agenda that I have. He's just awful. Anyways, continue.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I disagree with you. I think he was shockingly bad today. Like, I messaged you and I said I would have given Chillwell like a 0, man. I just didn't rate him at all. I don't know. I struggle not to laugh when I talk about Chilwell because for me personally, and people who know me will know, I've never rated Chilwell. I didn't want him here in the first place, so I guess that's kind of where.
But didn't you want Tellez, who's also been dreadful?
I didn't. Okay, listen. I wanted Reguilon. Tellez was one of my options as a backup option, and Chilwell I just never wanted to go near. Honestly, like I'm sorry. I don't want to say much. I just don't rate him. Honestly, I've been fair enough to him in the last few weeks when he's played okay, but I've said this all the time with Chilwell. He goes on patches of 3-4 good games. Oh, great. He's the next Ashley Cole. He's a brilliant left back, England's first choice. And then for 3, 4, 5 games, he'll just be absolutely shocking. And he'll make me rage and he'll make me so angry with the things he does. The poor crosses, the poor touches. Even when he goes forward like today, poor finishing, poor decision making, getting absolutely spun and dragged by Rafinha. Like, I'm sorry, I just don't rate. I'm not going to give a rating because people are going to go mental at me. I'm just going to leave it up
No,
to you.
no, bro. Come on.
No,
Give it.
but no, honestly, because I'd give him anywhere between a 0 and a 2. Honestly, I thought he was shocking.
So I'll go with your average rating of 1 then. When myself and Jay judge. Yeah, so it's a fair because I don't even agree on the Rafinha thing. I think he got spun maximum twice. I think half the time he actually dealt with him very well. So much so that Rafinha actually switched to the other side.
I'll send you a clip later. He got absolutely dragged.
No, I get that, but he even switched to the other side, so he kind of had it that comfortable with Chilwell if he switched. Otherwise, obviously he would have stayed on that side. I don't disagree with the Rafinha one. Otherwise, fair,
Right.
but I don't think
threes and twos in the chat as well. 3s and 2s in the chat. I agree. So bad.
Yeah, hey, maybe 3 is what I'd go for as well. I don't know. I'd probably push a 4, but Jay, hit me with your thoughts as well before I get into my rating.
I can't believe you said 0. Well, I can believe you said 0, but that's a bit harsh. I slightly differently to POS. I was okay with Chillwell signing because I understood the reasons that they gave. He wasn't my first choice either, but I was okay with it. Go on.
Sorry to quickly interrupt. I'm not sure whether that stat is true. If it is, that's outrageous.
No, it is. It's 19 clean sheets, 18 goals conceded.
That's mental. That is mental. Anyways, continue.
So I understood why he was brought in, but he's been poor recently and struggling to adapt. And I have a bit of a soft spot for Ben Chilwell. I don't know why, but I'm not willing to stick up for him when his performances like that completely warrant criticism. I personally think it's between a 3 and a 4 as well. It's just a bit sloppy, and there are certain things that I think really irk certain fans and wind them up. It doesn't bother me, but obviously, like coming off the pitch smiling, and there are sections of fans that really frustrates, and I totally understand it because you can't be happy with not winning. That's not a mentality that you appreciate at an elite club. So. Yeah, I think 3 or 4 today is what I would give him, and I totally understand people's frustration.
Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, I would probably push a 4. So I think in the end we probably then agree on the 3, and that's probably acceptable. I would say. Like I said, I think Price is being a little harsh, but hey, everyone is entitled to their own opinion. By the way, guys, more and more people joining the stream. Really do appreciate every single one of you that is tuning in. Even though it's a disappointing result today, hey, we have to talk about it and trust us. At least for me, that's how it works. The more I talk about it, the more I get over it, then I'm less affected by it for the rest of the day and until our next game. So we'll just get it out of our system. And, if you're new here, please be sure to subscribe. Check out both of these guys on Twitter and also the Chelsea Social, which, of course, Jay is a part of on YouTube. All these links are down in the description. And if you want to become a member, click the join button or the link in the description if you're on the phone. Use the super chat function if you fancy that, if you want to support the channel. But I guess next we probably have to talk about Christian Pulisic, who randomly started a right wing back today. Some people came out saying, they were told yesterday he would start a right wing back. I mean, I could have said that, even though I wasn't told that. I'm not saying these people are lying, but I'm saying it's easy to say that the next day. Was he bad? No, because he had the 2 only good crosses of our game today, maybe 3. In the first half, Kai getting on the end of one with just a little touch because the defender defended it well, and then a second one where Kai didn't get on the end of it. He did good. But was he brilliant? No. He struggled in the dribble. He didn't quite get past people as much as he wanted to. In the second half, he had one shot where he just didn't get enough power on it and hit it just very comfortably straight at the keeper. I just throw my rating out there as well. I would probably give him a 6. I think it was average, but nothing more than average. I think there was good moments, but nothing to highlight to say, he was great or whatever, if that makes sense. Let me go with Jay first on this one.
Yeah, I agree, mate. I think we're going to end up agreeing a lot for the rest of doing this because it's as well. You also have to base these ratings off of what you expect from each individual player. And with Pulisic, I every time he plays, I expect him to be driving at defenders. I expect him to be beating a player, and I expect him to be putting balls into the box and taking shots at the keeper. So that is the minimum. That is the bar for him. So for him to do that, I don't think that's anything outstanding. I think that's what you should expect from a player with potential like that. Thought it was smart to play him as a right wing back, or he wasn't as a right wing back, was he? He was evidently as a right winger, but he was. I would have preferred him to have come off the bench because against a Leeds team that throughout as the game progressed, they sat deeper and deeper. He would have been, a useful player to come on to try and change up the dynamic. And I think Callum probably should have started because that might have been the most effective way to go, in my opinion, anyway. But yeah, 6.5 is fine. I don't know if he'd done anything wrong, but nothing that's, I'm not going to remember this performance.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely be okay with the 6.5 as well. Jesters would give him that as well. What about you, Pies? 6.5, 6? Any lower, any higher? Let me know.
I would probably say 6.5 just because I think 6 would be a bit too harsh because I don't think he was worse than Aspie, but I can't disagree with anything you guys have said. I mean, he had a couple of shots where he just hit the keeper, not really as clinical as we've seen him in the past. And I guess that's going to happen with him lately. I mean, he's not got a lot of confidence, clearly, but yeah, just a bit disappointing, really. Just not clinical enough anyway today from our attackers. Just, 6.5 for me.
That is fair. Next, we get to the midfielders. Let me just let it run at the bottom to see who I put first because I can't remember. I think I went with Jorginho first. Let's go with Jorginho, who, of course, is suspended against Atletico Madrid on Wednesday. So we always knew he was going to start today. And he had a good performance, I thought. There was this one moment in the first half when I think it was a set piece that we cleared and the ball fell to him. And rather than punting it with no aim and dangerously because there was a Leeds player right in front of him, he just first touch, squared it straight to Kante, was ready to punt it long and to clear it. The man's so cool. He should really take over from Daniel Craig as James Bond. That's what I tweeted as well. Like, the man never gets faced. There was one moment where he got spun a little bit in the second half, but I think other than that, it was brilliant. He had some good tackles. Yes, once or twice Rafinha went past him. Fair enough. But, Rafinha is also a good player. So, that happens. But I think overall he had a very good game. I think controlled things all right. I think he was well positioned consistently. I think his passing was good. He attempted a number of over-the-top balls. One, he didn't play to Mason, but I wasn't sure whether he didn't think Mason would have the pace to outrun the defender, and that's why he chose not to play it, even though I think he probably should have just try it. But I think overall he had a good performance. I would honestly rate Jorginho's performance today quite highly. Not quite as high as Kante, maybe, although maybe in my head I would even say he was equally as important, shall we say. But Jorginho, 7.5. I think putting him on a level with Christensen is probably fair. Maybe 8, but 7.5 I will go for now. Pies, what are you saying first? Let me go with you first.
Jorginho, interesting one. I mean, the pivot today was, I don't know. I kind of think they were both kind of average. Like, I don't think any of them really stood out. Like, for me personally, I don't remember much from them. I'm kind of happy to go with what you guys with, to be honest. Like, maybe even a 7. Like, I don't know, like 7.5. I'm trying to find where I'd give him that extra 0.5 from. Like, I just don't know. Like, can you guys remember anything Jorginho did? Because I don't. Like, I don't remember any. I mean,
Santana just hates Jorginho. It's a tough one because I see what you're saying. In my books, is if I look at Kante and Jorginho individually, I think they were both good, if not very good. But as a collective midfield, I don't think that it was good because we didn't play out as well as we usually do. I know Leeds press well, that's all well and good, but I didn't think we played it out forward as well as we usually do, and we didn't quite get it to the front three enough, particularly at part in the second half. But I think that's a little bit of an issue because that's what we remember a bit more than the good parts of the game, if that makes sense. I think there was a lot of good moments. I think he had more good tackles than I usually expect from him, which is why I push it up, if that makes sense. I think controlled the game well. I think he always made sure he was available. He dropped in the centre-backs when he had to. He made sure he ran left, right, and centre to make sure he's always available, even though Leeds kept pressing. So I think he did a good job. Jay, what would you say? Do you think 7.5 is too high, or what would you say?
I would give him a 7, to be fair, because I think to go above 7, I think you have to really stand out. And he wasn't in the 3 most standout players today. He was definitely an important player on the pitch, though. I really liked watching him today because it's just the little things, a little step over and then feinting the other way really sold the people that were pressing him. And that's something I like to see. And I want him to do a bit more because POS and I talked the other day on Twitter about, I said Jorginho for me is a little bit like Willian, where on their day they're world class, but perhaps don't always have the ability to do that. And I understand that's it's a singular opinion, but I think the analogy stands up to some extent, because when Jorginho's on his absolute top form, I think he's unplayable, but I don't think he uses his range of skills enough as perhaps I would like him to. But then everyone has different opinions. But today I think 7.5 is fine. Either or. Big up Hajir. Yeah, either or really. I'll take. I think that'd be fine.
Yeah. I would actually agree with you. I think to get above 7, you have to really stand out and be like kind of very good. Even though I think he was individually good and at the job he had to do. See, that's sometimes why I struggle to rate Jorginho and why I disagree with people, because we know for a fact that he's very much so a system player and he has a specific role that he has to fill, and that's it. And that's his job. And I think that job he actually did brilliantly well today. But the team around him, but because the team around him didn't quite do their jobs as perfectly well, you would hope that Jorginho does a bit more, but that's not actually his job. So, do you know what I mean? Do you know where I'm coming from today? Because it's not actually Jorginho's job to score and assist. That's not his aim. His aim is to control the play. We had the large majority of possession. Make sure we don't concede it. Don't lose the ball when we're being pressed. That's his job. Make sure he commands the centre backs a little bit and the midfielders to where to go and where to pass. And he did that very well. But he didn't do any extras. So I think probably a 7 is actually fair. Would you be okay with that, Pice, or what would you say?
Yeah, I'd agree with 7. As I said, 0.5 on top. I just don't think he did anything that warrants it.
Fair enough. And then we get to N'Golo Kante. I will not... See, that's the thing. Even though I mentioned him as a shout for man of the match, I don't think he was more than a 0.5 better than Jorginho. He had a lot of good tackles and a lot of good interceptions, and he made himself very present. He was very active, both offensively, both defensively. He did a lot. He made a lot of good runs. Sometimes messed up the final pass, which is why I don't like him making those forward runs, which is why I don't like him in general playing with Jorginho, because we know Jorginho is the one that sits, putting more offensive duties onto Kante, and that's when it don't work. Even though I reckon his shot, if that doesn't take the deflection, I think that might be going for goal, And then we're talking about a screamer here, so it's one of them. I think 7.5. 8. I let myself be pushed to an 8, but I'm not going higher than an 8. You go, Pice. What would you think?
I'd give him a 7.
Okay.
I don't think he was very standout to that. I don't know where all this Kante hype's coming from today. He's not in my top 3 players for me. My top 3 would have been Rudiger, Mendy, and Havertz. I think Kante messed up one of the. When he took the shot, he could have actually, if he looked up, he could have played in Havertz, who would have almost certainly scored. So that was bad decision making from him for me.
But I think it was still a good shot, so I think you shouldn't be too harsh if that makes sense.
No, I don't know, because you're talking about his job's not to score an assist and stuff like that, and I get that. But when he has a chance to, for me, I just think that was a big moment in the game. Havertz made a good run. Just personal opinion. I know.
Let me just correct myself or clarify myself. I think for Kante, part of his job was to assist today because he played the more offensive of the midfield 2 role. So part of his job actually is that, just not Jorginho. Just to clear that up, sorry.
Yeah,
continue.
And that's where I feel like he should have played in Havertz instead of taking a shot. But maybe that's a bit harsh. Just personal opinion. I think he could have played it if he looked up rather than just take a shot for goal. And I think the other thing that annoyed me was he just made so many backward passes today when he could have had a chance to play forward for me. So just a personal opinion. I'm not sure what you guys think again, but I'd just say 7 with Jorginho. Both for me, just not very standout, but I was more annoyed with Kante than I was with Jorginho.
I see that, and that's just what I mentioned when I said he was in the final third, and I don't like him being in the final third. But I'm hesitant to blame that necessarily on him. I blame that kind of on Tuchel in terms of don't put him in a team where that's his role, because he's not good at that. Do you know what I mean? It's like when if you put Aspie as it's like when we blame Frank for playing Aspie as a right back too much. We had super attacking right backs and we were like, the crossing isn't quite there, the positioning isn't quite there. I'm like, yeah, but that Aspie, don't be necessarily blaming Aspie so much for that. We know that. Don't play him then, if that makes sense. So obviously with the suspensions for midweek, it's a kind of interesting, it's a bit more difficult one in that sense, but I don't know. You kind of sway me a little bit to say either both of the midfielders 7.5 or both of them 7, to be honest. But we'll always try to find a collective rating. So, Jay, hit me first. What are you saying?
Yeah, rating. I think Kante's performance is being sort of overhyped as well, and it's similar to the thing I said about Pulisic. And I personally think whenever we do these ratings, it's impossible to separate expectation from performance on the day.
Yeah, it is.
And with Kante, the expectation is that he makes the tackles and interceptions. Like it is amazing that he does it to such a level, but that is the level that is the bar that he sets for himself. So, I totally get the adoration and respect. I think a 7.5 is fair, but PYS touched on a really important point, and his final third decision making was poor. He should have passed Havertz then, but actually there was a case that stands out to me where he's in the box, sort of to the if you're taking it from Kante's point of view, he's on the sort of left of the box. He's near the 6-yard area, and I thought he was going to shoot with his left foot, and he chose to pass it across. And then the defender intercepted it. And I was like,
I see what you're saying, yeah.
I think that was the wrong decision then. I think personally that's worth a shot, because if the keeper saves it, he's probably not going to catch it from that close. So then it may ricochet. I think just a bit of decision making here. Now, I know it's not his job, but when you're not the deepest midfielder in that role, you sometimes need to subsume a bit of that responsibility. And that's for me is why he can't go to an 8. I think a 7 and 7.5 is fair, because it's good to see him nice and fit and playing against the most highly pressing team in the league, and standing out at what he does best. So 7.5, I think is fine. I think people need to maybe just relax a little bit, because it wasn't like a all-time great Kante performance, and I think those performances are 8 and above.
To be honest, I think you make a fair point. For that one specific moment, I'm not sure how much I want to blame, because it's like, again, he shouldn't be in that position in the first place. He probably didn't trust his left foot to shoot. If that situation is on the other side and he's on his right, I'm pretty sure he shoots. But because he was on his left, he didn't trust a shot and was kind of more confident in, maybe I can just get it to someone, if that makes sense. You said 7 to 7.5. Pi said 7. I said 7.5. Well, we don't do a 7.25, but that's probably what we should go for. Yeah, you know what? Let's just go with 7 as well. Maybe by the end we'll push it up to a 7.5. But
no, I was going to say give him the same as Jorginho if we're going to be fair that way. I think that's probably fair.
Fair enough. I mean, people are talking about Hakim Ziyech. I don't think I'll rate him as lowly as some people might think we will. But hey, we'll see, because we'll get to that exactly now. 2 Mr. Hakim Ziyech, who, a bit like Jay said almost in the intro, whenever it was, why did he even start? I don't get it. And we'll get to that with Tuchel a little bit more at the very end. I didn't really understand the whole idea. Why did Ziyech start? Do you know what I mean? Unless we had more pace up top. But it's like whenever Ziyech starts, it's one of them things where Mount is the other 10 or Havertz is the other 10. I'm like, give the guy a little bit of pace to actually use his passing ability. He had one really great pass, one of those whip to the far post to Chillwell and Havertz, and sadly neither of them got a proper connection on it. But that was kind of it. He had a couple of attempted passes which were great ideas, just not perfectly executed, but very good, like very difficult ones. So I'm not going to be too harsh for not executing them. It's one of those things where we heard from training, from the Athletic and whatever else, that people are actually super impressed with him, and he's one of these players that even though they don't have time, they somehow make it look like they have loads of time on the ball. But in-game, it looks like the opposite. In-game, it looks like he never has any time for anything. He took heavy touches again. It's a difficult one. And people are going to maybe say I'm being harsh again in the chat, but now we're getting to the front three. Now we're getting to those players that should actually get us goals in these games. Because, when we're talking about defenders and giving them high ratings, and then the DMs and everything and the wing-backs, their job isn't to score. Now we're getting to the players whose job it is to score, and they didn't score in a game where we should have done. So I don't think I can give Ziyech a high rating. I would probably go for a 5, because I think, unlike against United, for example, he at least worked his socks off. The guy ran himself into the ground today. Ran after every ball he saw, tried to press the goalie, tried to press the centre-back. Half the time he was on his own and was shouting at other people, come help me, which I like, especially in comparison to him not doing that ever, or not doing that recently. So I will go for a 5. Maybe you'd go higher, maybe you'd go lower. I don't know. Let me go with you first, Pies. What would you make of Hakim Ziyech?
I absolutely agree with one of the comments saying the game was too fast-paced for him. And that's something that I mentioned as well. I said, I don't know about you guys, but I just feel like he's struggling to adapt to just the whole pace of the Premier League. Like, especially under Tuchel. Under Lampard, he kind of had more time on the ball. People started to give him more time on the ball. He put crosses in and stuff. But under Tuchel, we break and we play. When we go forward with pace, with intent. Whenever I watch Ziyech, I don't see that same intent, that same pace, that same purpose that I do from Hudson-Odoi, from Mount, from even Werner because of his pace, and his runs. I don't see that from Ziyech. From Ziyech, I see a guy who just takes that extra 1 or 2 seconds that then allows the defence to get back in shape and just slows down the attack. And that's something that I get very annoyed with him for, and I got annoyed with him for again today. Yes, he played the ball to Havertz, which Havertz might have scored and then maybe had an assist. But just overall, I don't know. I just don't think he's got the right intensity for this league. I really don't. And I'm not writing him off saying we should sell him right at this very moment after this game. But I'm just saying, like, how many chances is Tuchel going to give him over some other attackers? Like maybe Jay said, like today, maybe start Hudson-Odoi, bring Pulisic on, in those attacking areas, or maybe start Hudson-Odoi instead of Ziyech and play Reece James at right wing back. There's other options that Tuchel can do. I agree with you, Laurenz. I don't see why Ziyech started today. I really don't. I'm really struggling with Ziyech. I'll give him a 4.5 to 5, honestly. And another thing, he came off really annoyed. I was watching his body like closely and his body language when he came off. He looked really pissed off, and I'm not sure whether that was with Tuchel or whether that was with himself. I hope it's with himself, because if that's for Tuchel, sorry, mate, but you got to step your game up. You're not playing well at the moment.
Yeah, it's a tricky one because I see what you're saying, but at the end of the day, I don't hate it if players are upset about getting subbed. Don't throw a tantrum, but if you're upset about getting subbed, I don't think that's a bad trait, if that makes sense. But Jay, what did you make of the performance, and what would you rate him?
I think Ziyech, the choice to play Ziyech is almost like the two managers are guessing each other's moves when they play chess. Like, they've both guessed the next move that manager's tried to make. So what Bielsa's done is he's perhaps anticipated that Ziyech's going to play, so drop his team, make him drop 10 yards. And, now his long-range passing is less effective. And again, this comes back to what are my expectations of this player? Well, my expectations of Ziyech are to be creating chances consistently, because his numbers suggest that he can do that to a very, very high level, right? So for him to create chances, that doesn't warrant that he's had a good performance. That just means he's doing the role he's been bought for a decent amount of money to do. And I agree with POS. I agree with you. There's absolutely no way I would have started him today above Hudson-Odoi. I think that's a poor shout, personally. I don't think that's the right game for him. You need a game where we're going to have a lot of possession but be comfortable in possession. Today we had a lot of possession but we're not comfortable in it because of the way that Leeds press. It's quite easy to mark him out of the game as well, because he's going to have to cut in on his left because he just doesn't use his right foot. And it's frustrating, and he's just not... Do you remember when Mata used to play for us? And Mata's not a physical player, but he was able to get away with it because he was anticipating what defenders were going to do, and he was able to do things at pace and quickly. And it seemed as though every decision he was making was correct. And it seems with Ziyech, I know he's new and it takes time and he needs, more games, and I understand that, but it just seems as though he's stuttering and glitching and sometimes slowing things down, and that's frustrating for a player that really should be facilitating attacking play consistently. So, I think a 5, because there was nothing above average for me today, because creating chances is what he's meant to do. So it's not, do you know what I mean? It is what it is.
Yeah, I think I'll push to 5. I disagree with a lot of people in the chat. And by the way, guys, if you're watching right now, make sure you smash that bloody like button. Turn it from grey to blue, even though we didn't win today. Turn it from grey to blue. It looks better. And, YouTube likes these things. So make sure you subscribe. Check out both of these guys on Twitter and YouTube, of course, in terms of Jay. And make sure you smash the like button. That'd be brilliant. If you want to support the channel, use the super chat function. Or if you have anything to say and you really want me to read out your comment, do that. But of course, you don't have to. I guess then we go for a 5 for Hakim Ziyech. Like I said, I was going to get to that. I disagree with the chat that he was better than Mount. I don't know how people come to that conclusion personally. Was Mount great today? Absolutely not. No, he wasn't. But he was still better than Ziyech. I mean, he had shots, he had better chance creation, he had better runs, and he had more purposeful pressing. I said already, Ziyech pressed really hard, worked really hard, but with less purpose. Or not purpose, but in terms of less effective in the end. He caused much less of Leeds losing the ball than Mason Mount did. So, people need to focus on that a little bit. Again, my rating for Mason Mount won't be high at all. It will be like a 6. I would even let myself be pushed to a 5.5, but 6 probably is what I'd go for. He wasn't great. He had that shot from distance where I don't think he probably should have shot, quite frankly, even though it was a decent shot. Probably shouldn't have in that moment. And he did okay, but it was nothing special, if you ask me. Let me go with you first, Pys. But again, it was nothing special, but he wasn't bad.
Yeah, Mount wasn't that bad. I was going to say he wasn't as good as like other performances. But then that goes really for the whole team, wasn't it? Like, I don't know. I don't know what rating to give him because based on the others, like you've given Aspie 6.5. I don't think he was worse than Aspie. I thought he was more influential than Aspie.
Yeah, but Aspie's a defender and kept a clean sheet.
Yeah, no, but like I get what you mean, but I think Mount did more for the team personally, like carrying us forward as he usually does. I thought he was one of our most positive attackers. I mean, he put a massive shame on Ziyech, like with his performance. Really, for me, I think Mount probably 6.5 or a 7. I thought he was one of our most positive performers. Yeah, for me, I wouldn't go any lower than that, but I wouldn't go any higher. So I think in between 6.5 and 7 for me. I don't think he deserves any lower than that personally.
Fair enough. Jay, what about you? Obviously, a lot of people in the chat saying he had chances to put Kai Havertz through a couple of times and chose not to, doesn't pass to Kai, whatever else. There were certainly moments where he could have done that, and maybe, their link-up isn't perfect. Probably also to do because they never played together. Everybody else played together. Last time when Kai finally got a start, Mount didn't start. Do you know what I mean? And then in the last start Kai had against Wolves, Mount didn't start. So it's not a totally unexpected problem. Obviously, they train together, right? But still, it's not a totally unexpected problem a little bit that they maybe lack a little bit of chemistry. But what would you say? What would you rate him, and what did you think of his performance?
Yeah, I'm not going to get into the whole Mount debate because I'm a big supporter of Mason Mount. I think he's an excellent player. But today, there are players that I support and constantly try and back like Mount and Chillwell to some extent. But you have to be honest and open and give their performances fair criticism. And for me, he was totally fine. But I think Bielsa got his tactics right in terms of dealing with Mount. So yeah, 6 as well because he wasn't better than Jorginho. He wasn't better than Kante. I think maybe 6.5 is okay because he always has a role to play and is always an effective player and useful. But I don't. And for some reason, I was trying to think of why to give a reason, but it doesn't necessarily sit too well with me that everyone's really annoyed he's not always passing to Kai. Like, he's not a cheerleader for Kai Havertz. Like, do you know what I mean?
I don't think that's how people meant it. I think it's just like
I know, but I'm like
good runs and
of course. It should yeah, of course. But I'm okay with certain players maybe, especially young players trying to do a little bit themselves and working it out because that's part of the course, really, isn't it? When you're a young player, learning when to play the right ball, learning when to take the opportunity yourself, and he's still a very, very young man, and he'll figure that out. And so and his combination play of Havertz will only improve. But yeah, I agree with what POS said in terms of the rating as well. I think that's probably fair.
Oh, you do? Okay, well then I have to give him a 6.5.
Yeah.
I thought you were more saying 6.
No, I think 6.5 is all right. Yeah.
Fair enough. Like I said, I don't think it was great. See, that's why I'm a little bit worried because on the defenders, I think we're fine to give them high ratings, but I think to give Mount a 6.5 in a game where we didn't score. And he didn't really create any big chances other than his shot. I don't know if that's not a bit high, if that makes sense. Do you know what I mean?
Mate, you run the channel, mate. You can drop it to a 6.
I know I can. I just want to have the debate.
I don't know. I guess I'll be interested what POS says, but I don't always think of Mount as a direct goal contributing player. And I say this a lot, that I think his role is slightly misunderstood. And I think, I also don't fully understand it as well, but he's just permanently effective when he's on, whether that's directly contributing in terms of goals and assists, or bringing the ball forward, or just causing issues on a pitch. And I think he'd done that to some extent today. Maybe not the best performance. It's actually one of the worst performances I've seen from him, which says a lot, because I still don't think he was that bad. But I would be fine if you wanted to go for a 6. But I listened to POS as I say.
I decided to push it down to a 6 because it just doesn't sit right. Pulisic created 2 real chances, Mount didn't, and we gave Pulisic 6.5. And I know Mount did other things, but we're judging an attacking player here today. He played as part of a front 3, and I think he needs to do more to warrant like a 6.5. In terms of Chester's donation, really appreciate it, even though it's just because he's triggered. Saying, I'm not having this, Mount is a 5. He was not even needed in this game. He cannot play when your striker is playing a false 9. He cannot play when your striker is playing a false 9 if the other 10 is Ziyech. Then you're right. But that's more down to Ziyech, not Mount. Because Mount can make it work. Ziyech can't. Because Ziyech is super limited. We played over-the-top balls to Ziyech all the time. And that's why I talk about this more when we get to Thomas Tuchel at the end. But to play Mount, Havertz, and Ziyech, that's ridiculous. Don't do that. Like, there's zero... I know Kai has pace, but he doesn't have like a Pulisic Havertz pace where he darts runs consistently. We played Leeds with a high line. Why didn't we have any pace up top? So I don't understand this at all. And the one player we had with proper pace, we played at right wing back, which is where I don't really see the logic today. But we'll get to that later. Like I said, I see what you're saying, Jester, but I think that you wouldn't be saying that if Ziyech just didn't play. Because I think the problem is that both of them were with a false 9. It wasn't, just Mount can't play with a false 9. I think Mount can and just Ziyech can, but not both of them, if that makes sense. Because then you have no one to really make up for when Kai drops. I know Ziyech tried a couple of times, but he doesn't have the pace, so it's pointless. And also he doesn't have the first touch, quite frankly, or the movement to actually be like a finisher in the box. So it didn't work for me. I appreciate the donation though, bro. But yeah, like I said, I guess we'll go with a 6 overall. I mean, but you said Havertz doesn't have Kai or Pulisic pace. Sorry, I meant Ziyech, my bad. But I guess next we get to Kai Havertz, and that's another interesting one because I thought he was good, but it still feels weird to give him a high rating now when he was the striker and we didn't score. Because he should have, because we kind of have to, like, I do this for Werner. When he misses sitters, I take points off. And as much as he was overall good, that chance early in the second half, he has to score that. I don't care whether it's your weak foot. I don't care what the pitch does. You score that. You have to score that. If you're starting as our number 9 player, whether it's a false 9 or a real 9, doesn't matter. You have to score that. And I'm not going to be harsh for the one that he didn't get a proper connection on in the first half, the cross of Pulisic. But what if he's more used to playing and more, I'm not going to use the word confidence, but more in the rhythm, more in the flow of playing, of the movement, he scores that. Just because he will be that half a yard further ahead on that bit of movement. And to be honest, even on Pulisic's second cross, if he's more used to playing regularly, he makes that run, that like quick step a bit earlier, and then he probably gets a nudge on the Pulisic cross as well. So I'm not going to say we give him a low rating, but I'm saying he deserves a high rating, but take some points off for especially that big chance, because that was by far a big chance of the game today. So we have to take some points today because there is no excuses for not scoring that, in my opinion. So I will say his overall performance was a 7, and then I'll take it down to a 6 because of the miss. But hit me, Pies. I know you said he was one of the best players, standout players. I don't even disagree. I don't even disagree with you. But we still drew 0-0, and he was our number 9.
Honestly, I'm sorry, but I don't agree with you. I'm judging these ratings on all-round performance. And looking at other ratings, I think if you're going to give Kai a 6, then there's no way in hell that Jorginho and Kante are a whole rating above Kai. Kai's all-round performance was very good today. Yes, I know he missed chances, but I think he probably, as I said, he was up there in my top 3 players. I was very impressed with him, again, in the false 9 role. I thought he was very influential with the link-up play. On both sides, I thought he made good runs. I thought he was good on the ball, threatened the box with his aerial, nearly got that header. I don't know, man. I can't take points off him for the misses because of his all-round play. Like, we take points off Werner for his misses, but also Werner has shocking all-round play. Kai doesn't. There's a difference with that. So, I'm sorry, okay. I can't go a 6. I can't go even a 7 because of Jorginho and Kante being a 7. I thought he was better for them. So for me, 7.5.
I see what you're saying in terms of influence in that, but I think you also have to consider that part of the DM is making sure we keep a clean sheet. We did that. Part of the striker is being scoring, whether you're influential or not. I agree with every word you said about Kai Havertz, bar the rating, because he did those things well, but he still didn't. And the final touch is still the important thing at the end of the day. If you play that role, if he played as a normal 10, if he played as an 8, and he did those things you said, I'd be giving him a 7.5, 8. But he played as a 9. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't like. You said you can't even go as low as a 7. I think that's a bit crazy, especially considering he is the reason we didn't win today because he didn't score when he should have done. And I'm not slating Kai. I think he had a good performance, and I think I want him to continue playing this false 9 role, even though I think it will be Giroud against Atletico. I think in general he's our most likely player to be consistently good in that from all the players we have that can play it, whether it's Werner, Giroud, or Tammy. But I think if you're going 7.5 for a guy that didn't score in a team that or assist in a game that we drew 0-0, that's a bit crazy. But we'll find an overall average rating that is fair from all of the things we said. So let me get to Jay first. What do you think?
Do you know what? Sometimes, I know PYS a fiery guy on social media, and he has strong opinions about certain things. But this time, I agree with him. I actually do. I think Kai was the one player on the pitch that really brought me joy today. Besides Mendy, I liked watching him a lot. His movement, he looks comfortable, confident, controlled. I totally understand what you're saying, Laurenz, about he should be putting those chances away. I agree with you. I was frustrated when he had one fall on his right foot, and it just looked a bit like, well, surely a player that gets bought for this much money would maybe be comfortable on both feet. I know he's left-footed predominantly, but I was hoping for a little bit more of that right-footed shot. But I think I agree with POS. I thought he was really decent today, Havertz, and the way that he was moving around the pitch, it intimidated Leeds players, which I don't think any of the other players had that effect. Mm-hmm. So maybe a 7 because I thought Kante was really good. I thought Jorginho was really good. I thought Kai was really good, but I'm trying to say 7 because I'm trying to incorporate your reasoning as maybe he should have.
No. Give it your rating so that we can. Then
I still think 7 is probably what I'd give it as well, because especially that right-footed shot. I think if you'd have done a bit better, if you'd just hit that ball harder, it would have gone in. But I think he had another very good game, and I hope he starts against Atletico as well.
See, if you would have said 7.5 now, a bit like Pice, or what would you even go for, Pice? Because you just said you can't even have a 7. So would you say 7.5 or even higher than that?
For me, it's a 7.5 because Kante's a 7, and I'm sorry. People were talking about in the comments, Havertz didn't score, not good enough. What the bloody hell did Kante do? Like, he was just passing back, just vibing. Like, he took a shot that didn't score. He didn't pass the ball to Havertz, which was unfair. Havertz could have scored that. Like, I'm sorry. I'm going to get annoyed. So I'm just going to say 7.5 for Havertz because otherwise I'm going to get annoyed. I'm sorry.
See, if Jay would have said 7.5 as well, I would have given you the 7. But because Jay said 7...
you're giving him a 6.5. I think that's harsh, bro.
No, I said 6 in it, didn't I? I said 7 performance, and I take 1 off for the miss. Overall performance, I agree, 7, maybe even 7.5, 8. But the miss, if you would have said 7.5, I would have been persuaded to give him the 7. But I think I can't. I see what you guys are saying. I see it and I agree with it. But I think you guys aren't being harsh enough on the miss. Because if it was Werner and if it was Tammy, okay, maybe not you two specifically. But if Tammy missed that chance, people will be ripping him a new one.
Yeah, no, but Laurenz, would Tammy or Werner do as much?
No, but that doesn't matter. I'm just
PYS is pissed now.
No. I'm just talking about the miss itself. Ignore the.
No. You can't do that though. Like, you've got to talk about the whole game. Like, Werner, Tammy, even Giroud would have not done as much as Havertz in that.
Of course
role.
not. Of course not. They wouldn't. Of course they wouldn't.
I give Kai a high rating for me, like because he played an all-round game. None of our other strikers or false nines or whatever the bloody hell you want to call it, they don't do that. Like, that's why I'm so happy with Kai, like playing there, because he's a joy to watch up there. Like, you know what I mean? None of them else are. They give me stress. Like, Kai doesn't. Like, even if he doesn't score, he plays really well. So for me, I don't know. Let's move on anyway, because it's just going to take forever.
Yeah, no,
like,
it's true.
We'll be on this guy forever.
I don't know what Cedric means with that comment, whether we're judging it on merit or performance. I don't really know. See, because I don't want to get Pies too annoyed.
Performance.
I will give him a 7. I will give him the 7. But I will tell you, I'm not taking any prisoners for Werner then, because you took the good heart of me already out of me now for this 7, and now Werner's getting ripped a new one from me. So we'll continue. You guys, you discussed Reece James for a minute. I'll be back in just a second. You just discussed that. Let me go with Pies first, because let him just forget about talking about Kai Havertz.
Yeah, go for it.
Reece James. Jay, what do you think? Because for me, I don't know. I thought you did okay, but didn't really have a massive influence, did he? I'm not sure.
He didn't.
Not really a standout performance. Obviously, it wasn't really on that long. To be honest, I didn't really understand the sub with Reece James. I don't know what he was trying to do there.
I was going to say the exact same thing. I did. Yeah. Firstly, his passing, he gets to a good point and passes backwards, which frustrates me. But I didn't think that we needed to bring someone on to shore up the defense.
And he's not crossing either. He's not crossing anymore either.
Exactly. He's not crossing at all, because I don't know if he trusts Havertz in the air, and the amount of good crosses he has put in that haven't, no one's been on the end of. I think maybe he's just trying to change up the way he's playing. But I didn't really get why he was brought on, if I'm honest, because it seemed as though the game perhaps didn't really require him. And I know that sounds weird, but it didn't make much sense for me to play him, to bring him on. I don't know what you think, Piers, mate.
No, it's more of a one. I agree. You kind of use that sub when you want to see the game out. For me, I don't know. Does Reece come on and create big chances to win games? I don't know. Maybe with his crossing's very good if he gets in the opportunity to deliver them. But he didn't really cross. So I don't know. I have an issue really with Reece at right wing back anyway. I've said this before. I don't think that's necessarily his best position. I think he's much better as just a natural right back. But yeah, the sub didn't really make sense for me for that. And in terms of overall rating, I'd probably go with maybe a 6. I don't know, 6.5, something average like that.
Yeah, I still heard most of the things you discussed. It's a weird one, because someone said in a chat here it was probably to take care of Rafinha, who, like I touched on earlier, switched from our left to our right, which is probably why it happened. But I agree, that was not. You don't make that sub when you're chasing a goal. If he had done that and say pushed Pulisic up and taken Ziyech off for it, maybe I could have accepted that. But obviously I also know that Pulisic probably isn't fit to play a 90, so we knew he was going to be taken off at some point. I think 6.5 is way too high, personally. If we're giving Pulisic a 6.5, how can we give James a 6.5? Sorry, Pies. That's why I disagree. And I'm not even saying he was dreadful, but I just agree with what you said, and I don't get how you got to a 6.5 in there, because he was just not doing enough in the final third. And when you come on in a game you're chasing, you have to do that. But again, do we blame that on Reece, or do we just blame that on Tuchel because he shouldn't have come on in the first place? Because you know what we're going to get. This, do you know what I mean? I would probably maybe give it, let it go for a 6. But 6.5 I think is too high. Well, did you say a rating, Jay? I'm not sure. I might have missed it.
I can't even remember, mate. But I think 5, between 5.5 and 6, because he done nothing. Again, he done nothing above his brief. Do you know what I mean? He's better at defending and attacking, in my opinion, and he defended well. And it's not his fault he was brought on. But it didn't make sense to me, and so I think between a 5 and a 6 is fair, and I think that's probably fair for all of the subs. But I know that we're going to disagree on Werner probably.
Oh yes, we will. Oh well, maybe we won't, depending on what you rate him as. But you see, if Reece did that for say a whole game, I would probably say even 6 is too high, and I would probably say 5. But because he was on the pitch for 20 minutes, I think 20 minutes is difficult for everybody. You can't always expect someone to have this stand-up moment, whatever, plural or singular, in 20 minutes. So I'll be okay with the 6. I'll be okay with the 6. I mean, Jay said 5.5, 6. Pi said 6.5, so I think 6. 6 is probably fair. And then we get to Timo Werner. I've rarely seen a worse sub-performance than today. He didn't look bothered. He didn't run after any balls. There was a couple of steep balls he could have easily gotten on the end of. He just let them run out of play 3 times. Didn't even try to run. Where's fast Timo Werner at? He looked as slow as bloody Alonso today. I don't know what he was doing. All of his touches were awful. And he was the least influential player on the pitch. Bloody Mendy was more likely to score than Timo Werner today. that was a game today where I was like, I want Timo Werner to start because I think playing Leeds is one of those few games a season that actually suits playing him. And then he didn't start, which I find weird in the first place. But then he comes on and he just, like I said, he didn't look bothered to me. He didn't look like he was trying. He didn't even look upset when he had poor touches anymore or when he had poor passes. I don't know. Today was weird. We'll get onto Tuchel. Part of the criticism for Werner also goes to Tuchel. But I don't know. I think Werner was real bad today. I think Werner was worse than Chilwell, like significantly. Maybe I wouldn't have given Chilwell a 3. So, that comes into it. But and I wouldn't give Werner maybe below 3, but I would not go. I would definitely not go higher than a 3 for Werner. I don't think he did a single good thing. And I mean, Jay, please tell me in just a second if you think he did a good thing because he didn't make any runs. He, like I said, to me, he didn't look bothered. Maybe you disagree with that, fair enough. But still, to me, he didn't look bothered. He didn't even press properly at all because I mean, especially in that 10-minute period when Reece and Werner came on until Callum came on, those 10-minute periods was all Leeds. We couldn't even get the ball to any of our forwards, and they keep it. Not once. Those 10 minutes, we might as well have just gone home and let Leeds do their thing and put Mendy in goal, and leave Mendy in goal because that's all that happened in those 10 minutes. Callum came on and he got a bit better again, thankfully. But honestly, I think Werner was shocking. But Jay, please tell me why I'm wrong.
I don't think you're wrong. I just, like he didn't. It's weird. I want to defend Werner a lot because I fundamentally believe that there is a very good player in there that is just needing a bit of time and a bit of extra coaching and perhaps a bit of arm around the shoulder, and he takes a lot of heat from fans, and that's not typically my way of dealing with poor player performances. But yeah, today underwhelming. I think he anticipated having a lot of time and space in behind, and he did not get that at all. And when that doesn't happen for him, it's quite hard for him to become involved in play, which is just frustrating sometimes, isn't it? Because the thing is that I think all Chelsea fans want to see him do well, and it's just consistently not happening. And it becomes frustrating because we need those players to be performing well, specifically at this point in the season with 9 games left to go when, West Ham have 2 games in hand and Everton do as well. It's those players that you bring in that 28 goals in the league last season. You bring him in to be that player and to contribute. And obviously you can see that his mentality has taken a massive hit and that's affected his confidence. But, focusing on the singular today, poor, didn't add anything to the game when he came on. To be honest with you, I forgot he came on until we started speaking about it. So I'm genuinely happy to go with the number that you guys give him, to be honest, because I literally don't know. 4, maybe. Yeah.
Before I get to Pice here, I think there's a strange comment by our team because I think it would have been even worse for Timo. If he had the same, obviously maybe the fans help him to not miss. If so, okay, maybe if that's your point, fair enough. But if the misses start as they did, we know what fans were like with Morata. We know what fans were like with Jorginho. We know Torres was maybe a little bit different, but Torres is a bit different. But we know what fans were like with Morata. I don't understand why you think Werner comes off any different. I know Chelsea fans and, proper Chelsea, they love working hard and he does that. But they don't accept missing from the goal line. And that's what he did in one game. Can't remember which game it was, but one home game. The ball was literally on the goal line and he took it back out. It's almost like what Harry Maguire did against AC Milan. Do you know what I mean? Just worse. Anyway, I don't disagree with that comment, our team. But, Pice, what did you make of Timo and what would you rate him?
As Joe said, I didn't notice he even came on, to be honest. I guess he anticipated to have a high line, but I think Leeds naturally today did drop back a little bit. Not sure whether that was because I think one of you two said it was kind of like a chess game with guessing Ziyech and try and play those over the top balls, etc. And maybe Bielsa just naturally sat off just a tad deeper just because of that, and maybe that played an impact in just how overall Leeds set up. But
when Werner came on, Ziyech came off.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about Leeds initially set up deeper, and I thought for the whole game, they kind of kept that shape. There wasn't really much opportunities for Werner to run in behind. It wasn't like Liverpool as we were anticipating. It was with Liverpool, it was literally get the ball in midfield, one ball out wide or over the top, you was in on goal. There was that much of a high line, and that's what I kind of thought Leeds would be kind of doing, but they didn't. They naturally dropped a little bit deeper, which maybe took us by shock, kind of maybe took Werner by shock. As I said, he didn't really get involved in the game, and this has been my whole problem with him. You know, he's such a like an.
Pice, you cut out there. I don't know what happened, but I don't know. Maybe I'll have to leave and rejoin again. I see what people are telling me in the chat. How can you give Chilwell the same rating as Werner if he didn't play the full game? Maybe that's fair enough. But also, and I know I kind of somewhat hinted at doing that for Reece James, and I would have given it a lower performance if he did that kind of performance for the whole 90. But still, if you come on, and Reece James didn't come on to get us to win. Reece James came on to deal with Rafinha. Did he do that very well? It's a different debate to be had. But Reece James was brought on to get us a winner. Timo Werner was brought on to get us a winner. And as both Jay and Pice said now, and myself, you guys didn't even notice he was there. I did because I got annoyed. But do you know what I mean? But he didn't exactly help us get a win here now, did he? Again, didn't get involved at all. And he did. And people tell me he didn't have space to run it behind. Yeah, but he didn't even try. So you can't tell me like if he would have at least tried. You know, I know I'm harsh on Werner on average already, but usually at least tries. And today he didn't even look like that trying, plus being bad. So that's why there's no. I'm keeping no prisoners today. I'll go 3. Jay said 3 to 4. Pice, what about you?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I think my internet just completely cut out there. Did you hear anything I said or not?
I can't remember what the last thing you said was, but you cut off at some point.
Oh yeah, I was speaking about Werner and just how about like the high line, and I obviously Leeds naturally sat off deeper. I think just really struggled to get involved.
They were like super deep? Because I didn't think they were.
No, they weren't super deep, but it wasn't like like Liverpool where it was like one ball over the top and you was in kind of thing. Like that's how Werner really thrived against Liverpool, and how he usually does thrive with the runs in behind. But he kind of just didn't get involved in the game, and for that I have to give him a low rating, to be honest. Like as I said before, he was kind of invisible. I didn't notice he came on, which is never a good sign. So for me, I would probably go with a 3 or a 3.5.
What Tyrone said then, a lot of people are having a go at me and my agenda and whatever else. When Werner starts scoring, it's done and whatever. Yeah, when he starts scoring, he will finally do what I expect him to do. So then I won't give him low ratings anymore, because then he'll finally be doing what we signed him to do. Do you know what I mean? Like, what?
He's told you to stop celebrating when he scores. Like, that's ridiculous.
And that. Because it's like, I'll give Timo Werner a 10 if he scores a hat-trick and plays well. I'll give him a 7 or an 8 if he plays all right and scores. But if he does nothing, just ruins attacks, has a poor touch, doesn't even press, doesn't even work hard, then I'll give him a 3. I don't think. If we're giving Werner higher than a 3, I think Chilwell needs to go up, because I said this initially already. I didn't think Chilwell was as bad as especially Pice did. So for me, it's like that. Let me know if you guys strongly disagree and you really want me to push it to at least a 3.5. I will abide, because we're 3 people here. But are we okay with a 3 or not? Jay, then Pice.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I'm cool with a 3.
This is a load of waffle. I don't understand where this idea comes from. Like, that's what I want him to do all the bloody time, but he doesn't. Like, every game, honestly, and maybe I should stop doing it, but I did it on the Chelsea play predict. I swear every bloody time I put Werner. I mean, today also because I was sure he would start and he didn't, which again, we'll get to that. But I kind of believe in him every time, and then he disappoints me every time. That's maybe why I'm so harsh, because I get my hopes up every time. Like today, I was watching again how we could do with Werner here, a bit of pace, a bit of more strikerly instincts, and then he comes on and it's just shocking. And maybe that's part of why I was so disappointed, and why I'm so harsh. But it's just what I felt. I can't help it. But hey, let's move on, because Jay needs to leave it soon as well. Let's get to Callum Hudson-Odoi, who gets a good rating from me, because he at least changed something in the final third. Tried to take people on, had a shot, not a great shot, I will say, was straight at the keeper at the end of the day, but went past 2 people, had a shot, tried something, brought a bit of pace, changed it again after the 2 initial subs kind of ruined it. He kind of got it back to how it was before that, if that makes sense. Not great, but better. So I think he was good. Probably give him a 7. He only had 10 minutes, and in those 10 minutes, I think he did good. Pice, what about you?
Yeah, Hudson-Odoi was really positive today. I mean, I guess 7's like very interesting because obviously he only had like 10 minutes, kind of cut inside. I thought maybe he could have done a bit better with a shot. Kind of in the similar one where Bayern Munich, you remember where he kind of done the defender and then the goal that was disallowed, he rattled it into the corner. That was kind of a similar angle. And so, I mean, to hit the keeper, it was kind of annoying. Fine margins, as we've said before. But I guess that's a little bit harsh. Overall, he was positive. Can't be too picky. It's just, you know, if that went in, that would have been brilliant if he scored because we know he can do it. So I think maybe just work on his finishing a little bit over time will get better. And yeah, I mean, really positive player. I love Hudson-Odoi. Whatever position he plays in, I think he thrives really well most of the games. So I would. A couple of people are saying 6. I'd push for a 6.5 just because of, you know, the minutes he did have. And obviously the positivity that he did bring to the team. So I would probably push for a 6.5, but I'm also happy to go to a 7 just based on how positive he was when he came on, unlike Werner, who wasn't positive.
Exactly what I was going to say. Jay, what about you?
Yeah, no, I think 6.5, 7's fine because when you bring someone on with that limited time, and I always say this, I don't think Hudson-Odoi is primarily a goal scorer. So I'm happy for when he comes on. Like, he's trying to play disguise passes and neat little through balls, and it's nice dribbling just to beat a man here and there. And what he'd done was he changed the flavour of the game in the final 10, and that's all you can ask from a sub in that short space of time. And actually, he performed better than most of the players in the team today. And that was in 10 minutes. That's, you know, he deserves to be starting regularly now. And I understood playing Pulisic, but Hudson-Odoi is the better player for me at the moment. And I think 6.5 and 7 is a fair reflection of how he performed in that 10 minutes, because that's all we can judge him on, and we have to judge each player on the time they played. And I think he was 6.5 to 7. Yeah.
Exactly. And I mean, I see what Jess is saying there, but that's what has like this little line between starters and subs, because when you come on off the bench for 10 minutes to actually have a positive impact on the game is impressive in itself, because you saw by Timo Werner and Reece James that not everyone does it, and they had 20. To do that in 10 is very good in itself, and he did more than Ziyech, Mount, and Chilwell combined in terms of attacking. Quite frankly. So I think maybe we rated Mount a little bit too highly, and maybe Ziyech as well. Fair enough. But even if you compare it to that, you can't give Callum lower than that, in my opinion. Like, it has to be at least a point higher than Mason Mount in terms of effectiveness and influence on the game today. I think a 7 is fair. And now we get to Thomas Tuchel, because I know Jay needs to head off in a minute. I'll let you go first. What did you make of Thomas Tuchel in terms of lineup, substitutions, approach to the game, whatever else?
I'm okay with the lineup because I like the fact he's willing to try different things and consistently switch things up. I like the fact he does that. So I'm not annoyed at him for trying things, because I personally think that's a good trait in a manager sometimes. It just so happened today, and perhaps it didn't hit quite so well, and the substitutions were poor either. So as well, sorry. So I don't think you can give him higher than the 5, because he did keep a clean sheet and he still hasn't lost. But, you know, now we've scored 15 goals in 12 games under him, and 4 of those have been penalties and 2 of them have been own goals. So that we still need to get the attack clicking. And, I think I personally believe if Hudson-Odoi played today alongside Havertz, we would have seen a goal. But that was a decision he chose not to make. And for me, I think that's why he gets a 5 or 5.5.
Yeah, I would probably agree with a 5. But you kind of swayed me to that, because they still kept the clean sheet, unbeaten run. Because I did get a bit annoyed. Obviously, hindsight is a wonderful thing, and he doesn't have that. And we do. But even when we saw it, once we knew that it was a back 3, I'm like, why against Leeds? I mentioned this already. Why against Leeds are we playing a Mount, Ziyech, Havertz front 3? Didn't get that at all. Like, if there was ever a front 3, ever a game, other than Liverpool and maybe Man City, where I'd actually want Timo Werner to start, it's probably this one. And people tell me how much of an agenda I have. Even I wanted him to start today. Do you know what I mean? It says enough. And then I fully agree. Start Pulisic, fine. But then also start Callum. Start Callum and Pulisic. Take Ziyech out. Wasn't necessary for this game. Whether you then start Callum as one of the inside forwards or Hudson-Odoi as one of the inside forwards, don't really care. They can both do each job. Even though Callum would probably have been a little more comfortable as a winger because he's played it a bit more. But I just didn't get it. And the subs just didn't work at all. Even though other than Reece, when he made the subs, I agree with him, other than being a little bit late, they didn't work. And as a manager, like I said in the beginning already, or did I say on Blues Fancy? I can't remember. We have the luxury of hindsight, but we're not being paid millions to know in advance. He is. So, if he brings on players and they don't work, then he got it wrong. It's as simple as that. So I can't give him anything higher than a 5, in my opinion. I would maybe push 4.5, but I'll be okay with the 5. Pies, what about you?
I would say 5 out of 10. Just mainly there was a couple of things that I didn't like. We said yesterday on the preview that we kind of both agreed that we would like to send Werner, Havertz, Mount as the front three. Yeah. That probably would have been my front three, personally. Also, I'm not gonna lie, guys. I was very annoyed when I saw that the same players came out at half time. I thought there should have been at least one half-time sub. I would have took Ziyech off for Hudson-Odoi. I was like, why is Ziyech coming out? Like, he was shocking in the first half. He didn't do anything. He kept giving the ball away. He wasn't, he didn't fit in the intensity of the game at all. So that's a sub I would have made. And the one kind of thing I can give him a little bit of, okay kind of thing for is maybe he had one eye on Atletico, but that being said, I still don't agree with the lineup. Still think subs should have been made earlier. Hudson-Odoi at 75 minutes. Why not 65? Why not? 60?
It was even 79, bro. So it was
79. That's even worse. Then why so late? People talk about Hudson-Odoi didn't do much. Didn't get a goal or assist. Wasn't positive. Do you really expect him to in 11 minutes of game time? Maybe 13, 14 minutes with the added on time. It's. I think sometimes we have very, very high expectations for our players. So I would give Tuchel probably a 5. Yeah, I just probably the first game actually out of all our games where I actually disagree with something he done, because all the other games I've been like, yeah, brilliant, fantastic, superb, job's done. You know what I mean? This is the first game where I'm actually criticising him in a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I criticised him after Southampton. I don't think there was a need to take Callum back off with how other players performed on that day. But yeah, it's those early kickoffs. Maybe less the players are affected. Maybe it's more Tuchel that's affected by the early kickoff. Who knows? But I know Jay has to go now. Me and Pies will just round it out quickly. We'll leave it in a minute as well. But Jay, massively appreciate you coming on. Really appreciate your thoughts. And again, ladies and gentlemen, follow him on Twitter. Link is down in the description. And of course, check out the Chelsea Social, which he's a part of. Also, the Atlas in the description. Just click down, subscribe to these guys. But yeah, again, bro, cheers for coming on, and I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, thank you so much. Always a pleasure talking to you, boys. I'll catch up with you later, yeah? See you later. Bye-bye.
Yeah, exactly. At the end of the day, for me, after what you just said about Atletico, I see that. It's just my opinion is I wouldn't start Werner against Atletico, and now he's guaranteed to start, and I don't even like that in the first place. So,
yeah. Laurenz,
arguably that thinking ahead to Atletico even annoys me more.
Yeah. Laurenz, the thing is, though, with Atletico, I'm hoping that because they need a goal, they come out a little bit more out of their shell. But I still think they will kind of, obviously, I don't think it will be as much of a deep block as the first leg. So I'm just hoping maybe he's never going to suit a game against Atletico, but maybe it won't be as terrible as before because they do need a goal. Hopefully they come out and then maybe we can hit them on the counter or something and it'll be useful for that. So I guess that's one way of looking at it.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. Again, that's one of the games where I'm like, he might not be bad as a sub. But if I look at him as a sub today, maybe being a sub is just not his thing. And some players are like that. And I'm not even going to be too harsh on Werner for that. There's a lot of players in the world that aren't that great as subs and are better when they start games. Willian is one example for it. But there's also better players in history that weren't great as subs. I don't know. That's a whole different debate to be had. I think we'll be back tomorrow with a stream, obviously talking about this game once again, maybe with a day of, thinking about it, sleeping on it and whatever else. I think I should be here with Jam, and I think Jam need to talk to him about it again, but also Matisse. So definitely get involved with that. I really do appreciate everybody that has tuned in today. It was a dead game. It was a dead 0-0 draw. I mean, so I really do appreciate every single one of you that has, still taken the time out of the day to watch this. Again, if you're new here, please be sure to subscribe. We're on the road to 10K. We're very much so closing in on 9K now before we, get on the last stretch to the 10. So make sure you subscribe. That'd be massively appreciated. Make sure you smash that bloody like button. Let me see how many likes we're on. I think we're on just over 70. We are on 71 likes. There you go. So we still have over 100 people watching. So everyone that's still here, make sure you go down below, smash that like button. It doesn't cost you any money, doesn't cost you any time. And also, it turns it from being grey to being blue. And who doesn't prefer that? So again, massively appreciate you coming on, Pys. I'll talk to you after Atletico Madrid probably, unless I last minute have to, draft you in for the preview. But again, I appreciate you coming on. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you to everybody that has tuned in. But yeah, thanks for watching. Up the Chelsea. It's upwards and onwards. And I'll see you. Wait, just need to get the outro image. And I'll see you next time.